Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Intuitive Minds by Shelley and myself, where we elevate consciousness globally. House rules: please make yourself a cup of coffee or get your favorite drink and get comfortable. Please mute yourself. And just to introduce myself, I'm Dr. James Liddell from Lifestyle Clinic, where I practice integrated health in Constantia for the last 23 years. I love helping patients to restore their health naturally. We also have a business, Philippolis Retreats, where we run leadership and transformational retreats to assist business leaders to become consciousness leaders in business. Now, I'm going to give Shelley an opportunity to introduce herself. Shelley, the floor is yours.
Thank you, James. I'm Shelley Ruth Wyndham. It's a delight to be here again. I have a degree in psychology. I have a postgraduate qualification in natural medicine underpinned by quantum physics and over 25 years training and ongoing in spiritual disciplines. My practice, my private practice, which I've run for 23 years, is called Spirit World Medicine. Though I am a life coach and I offer counseling, coaching, I am a spiritual healer as a conduit to the source energy. I'm here to make a positive difference, and I'm delighted to work with you, James. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker tonight. We are so glad to have Anneke here, who has always had an interest in holistic health and healing. She is a pharmacist, and that has given her a solid foundation in anatomy, physiology, and allopathic medicine. She's fascinated with the link between mind, body, and spirit. She completed a B.Arts degree in psychology and English and went on to get a graduate diploma in counseling skills. She's a qualified yoga teacher and teaches integral hatha yoga. Her passion is facilitating and holding sacred space for the growth and transformation of her clients on their healing journey. She's a qualified energy healer, and she has completed a diploma in sound healing from the Academy of Sound Healing in the UK. She now offers both individual and group sound healing sessions. Anneke, the floor is yours. I'm just going to make you host. And we are so glad to have you here. And please share your wisdom with us.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me onto the show, James, and Shelley for co-hosting me as well. It's lovely to be here this evening. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my journey from pharmacist to sound healer, which began when I was 22 years old. I'm a Cape Town girl, born and bred, and I stepped out of medical school into the world of pharmacy. And I had a really big wake-up call when I started seeing clients or patients who were coming in for chronic medication, but they were actually, many of them were abusing the medication that they were on, sleeping tablets, anxiolytics, cough mixtures with codeine or alcohol in it. And I saw that there were a lot of trauma and a lot of stress that people were suffering from. So I continued on for 3 decades as a pharmacist, but on the side, I was studying holistic medicine, as James introduced me already. So, and then when COVID happened, it was really a watershed moment for me. And it was, we saw that we were all confined into our homes. I started my retraining again as an energy healer, and later on, I recognized the power of sound healing. So I specialized in sound healing, and particularly sound healing with tuning forks, as an alternative to treating the symptoms, actually treating the underlying causes. So that's what my presentation is about this evening, and I hope that you are going to enjoy it. So as soon as I can get my screen sharing, we'll go up and running. So you're going to have to tell me, can you see? Are we in screen sharing, James? James?
James, muted.
Anneke, just
Yep.
there we go. Now I can
Okay.
see. Perfect.
Good. Okay. Okay, so sound healing with tuning forks. So if we're going to look at sound from a biblical perspective, and we look in Genesis, the Old Testament, Genesis 1 verse 3, and God spoke the universe into existence. God said, let there be light. And so we can see already from the very first chapter of our Bible that they talk about light. Then in John 1 verse 1, in the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was with God. So in the New Testament, we also have this correlation between the Word and power and sound. Then if you want to look at it from a scientific perspective, we can see science talks about the Big Bang theory. So we can imagine this huge explosion of sound and light and color and all these things. There was a massive amount of power in the sound of the universe. Then what is sound healing? This is a very well-known quote by Nikola Tesla. And he said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, then think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So everything around us has a frequency. All the organs, glands in our body have a frequency. Every thought that we think has got a frequency. So this is the power of our thoughts, actually, that we change our world through the frequency of our thoughts. So let's look a little bit more about energy and the different types of energy. So we've got three forms of energy. We have light energy, which is known as a photon. We have sound energy, which are called phonons. This is the smallest unit of sound. And then the third type of energy is scalar energy or standing waves. I'm not really going to go into much depth with that because that's another talk on its own. And then the little diagram at the bottom is an illustration of the electromagnetic spectrum of light, which goes from gamma rays and X-rays all the way up to the slowest waves, which are short waves and medium waves, TV waves. And you can see there that there's only a very small percent of visible light. It's like about a tenth of that whole electromagnetic spectrum. So what we have to remember is that although what we can see is a very small portion, 9/10 is what we don't see. And it's just as powerful as what we do see. And I think we so easily forget that. So this is a picture of a human biofield or a human bioelectric field in scientific terms. In layman's terms, we might think of it as an aura. So all our cells in our body are emitting light. Our whole being is emitting light. And for people like Shelley, for instance, some of us can actually see those colors that surround the aura. So we are electromagnetic beings of light. So going on to phonons and sound energy, a phonon is a discrete unit or a quantum of vibrational mechanical energy. So we can use light energy to heal. We can use sound energy to heal. So what I like about sound energy is that it has a deeper penetration even than light energy. So a phonon sound energy penetrates our cells, it penetrates our tissues, it's transmitted very well through bone. So it goes really, really deep. It gets to the deepest layers and levels of our cellular body. So if we look at the range of hearing in animals and humans, infrasound, that's the very lowest and the slowest frequency. The elephants can hear below 20 hertz. So human hearing is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. And if we go to animals like bats and the whales and the dolphins, they can hear in the ultrasound range, which is from over 20,000 hertz. A hertz is a cycle per second, a frequency of cycles per second. So just to explain what sound is, so light, as we know, is a particle form and it's a wave form. So we describe sound as a wave form. It is created by a vibrating object. It has to move through a certain medium. So that medium could be air, it could be water, or as I've mentioned, it could be bone as well. And it goes from the source of the sound and it's met by the receiver. So that sound wave has certain qualities. It has a height, which we call amplitude. It has a wavelength, which is from the peak, one peak to the next peak, or it's from a trough to a trough. And then the frequency is the number of cycles per second, and this is measured in hertz. So just to explain the different terms. This was a very interesting fact that I found on how primary sound is, in that in the human fetus of the human baby, at 20 weeks already, the ears are formed and the sense of hearing is established in little babies. So that's how important sound is. Then sound as a medical modality. We're already using sound as a healing modality. When we do ultrasound or baby scans, we're already using sound. Then if we have kidney stones, they can be treated. Those little calcium stones can be broken down using infrasound or ultrasound waves, breaks it into small little powdery granules, and they can be passed out through the ureters into the urine. Likewise, we can treat fibroids in the womb with high intensity focused ultrasound waves, and we can use that ultrasound waves to treat the growths of prostate growths or prostate cancer as well. So you can see very important applications for sound, which I think we only now are really beginning to discover. So now what I practice is integral sound healing. What distinguishes integral sound healing from any other form of healing is that we treat the person holistically, we treat the whole person. So we think of sound healing, it's an art and it's a science. So it's an art because we're using the skill of intuition, perception, imagination, and it's a science because we need to apply our skills and our knowledge. So it's not just a airy fairy hocus pocus thing. We've got a solid backing of science behind us. In integral sound, we work with 5 layers of being. So we can think of the person has a body, the physical body, they have an emotional body, they have feelings, they have a mental body, which is their mind, they have a soul, and they come from spirit, they come from source. So we're actually combining all those 5 levels with an awareness of all of those 5 in our treatment. So likewise, we can also think of the person who's not only an individual. He acts and he behaves within his family. And with that family fits into the community. That community is part of nature, and nature is part of the cosmos. And for any of you who have studied Chinese medicine, we could also look at it as the 5 elements in our body and in all organic matter of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. This is just a little diagram to illustrate how we start from source energy and we go through the life cycle and eventually we end up back at source. So how does integral sound healing work? So we aspire to treat the root cause of illness or pain or dis-ease. So there are 2 main factors that are linked to 80% of all serious physical and mental health challenges. The one is chronic stress, and you can think of the business executive who's highly stressed, overworked, high blood pressure. And then we also have suppressed emotions, which comes from our backgrounds. It also could come from our past trauma and abuse. So if you think of a tree with its trunk and its leaves above the air, and those symptoms that are manifesting could be stomach ulcers, it could be hormonal disturbances. In severe cases, they might manifest as cancer, they might manifest as angina or heart attack. But if we have a look, so we're not going to treat just the symptom, we're going to look below the surface, we look into the roots. And then we will find those suppressed emotions of anger, of fears, of grief, unexpressed sorrow. And all these things combine to, if we're not worked through, they combine to manifest into illnesses or dis-ease. So the tools that I work with in my trade is, as I've mentioned, tuning forks is my main thing, but then I also use the Tibetan singing bowl. I like to use the singing bowl for intention setting with my client at the beginning of a session. Then you'll see on the screen there, I have some tincture bells or chimes. So when I open this space, I like to start with just a little chime of the bell to say, now the session is beginning. The frame drum is a beautiful, amazing instrument because it simulates the human heart. So we know how variable the heart rate is. It helps to ground us. It helps to get us into an alpha brainwave state. If we have a particularly anxious client, we can slow the beat down to calm that client. If I had a client who is perhaps feeling depressed, then I could use a quicker tempo to kind of enliven them and invigorate that person. And I have a variety of other instruments as well. I have these beautiful chimes, I have a rain stick, flute, all manner of instruments. And it's beautiful to, like a symphony, just to weave all these different instruments together into the healing session. And then not to forget the voice as a healing instrument. And if we're feeling anxious, if we're feeling uncomfortable in any situation, even if there's pain in the body, one of the best go-to tools that we can use is our own human voice. So humming. If we're feeling uncomfortable, just start humming. So what humming does is it activates the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve sits in the medulla oblongata, it's the brainstem of our brain. And the vagus nerve switches on the parasympathetic response, and it switches off the sympathetic response. So the parasympathetic response is your rest and digest, and the sympathetic response is a fight or flight. So when we hum, we're switching on that parasympathetic nervous response, and we're calming the whole body down. So I had a little exercise here. I don't think I'll do it this evening. Just to say that our body is divided into three main energy centers, which is our belly center, our chest center, which is our heart space, and our head, which is the upper dantian. So we can activate using the vowel sounds, that lower belly region, by using the sound. And then to activate the heart space, we use the ah sound. And to activate the head space, we can use the And if you're sitting at home and you're listening to this, you might even want to just try making that like an extended humming sound, and you'll find that you hear it in your brain and you hear it in your throat as well. So it's very, very much opening up your throat, activating your head center. And ideally we want to balance all three of those centers. We don't want to just be in our head or in our belly. We want to be in all three. And you can see the lower diagram there that each of our chakras, so a chakra is an energy center, resonates with a note of from the whole harmonic spectrum, going from the middle C up to the upper C. But I will mention that a little bit further on as well. So there's the power of your voice. And then when we go into a healing session, practically, we have 3 parts to it, or 3 essentials, and they are the intention. So the intention is not my intention. Well, my intention is always going to be healing for the highest good of all. But really, I'm interested in the intention of the client. So they would say, what is it that they want to manifest? What is it that they want to bring into being? Whether it's being at peace, it's always going to be something in the present tense. It's always going to be a positive affirmation or a positive intention or a statement of, I am free in my body, or I am peaceful, or I am feeling joyful. So that would be the intention that we're going to work with. And then very much we work with the breath as well. So I talk the client through their own breath into bringing them into that relaxed state. And then, as I've mentioned, we have many different sound healing tools that we can use. So why tuning forks? Well, the truth is that the tuning fork, my first tuning fork chose me. I didn't choose it. I picked up a tuning fork and I said, what is this? And I was hooked. I was completely fascinated. I was like, I just had to know more. And I started reading and exploring and studying. And then later on, it made so much sense to me on why I'd chosen tuning forks. And they are very precise. They're precise measuring tools. They have very pure, measurable frequencies. And of course, that appeals to my very scientific and logical mind. Being a pharmacist and having that background, it makes sense to me. So they are compact and they are lightweight. You can put them into a suitcase. They are not too heavy to carry around. They make a huge amount of noise, so you're not going to disturb your neighbors when you play your tuning fork. And they can be used either on the body, off the body, and also beside the ears. So there are 2 main types of tuning forks. On the right-hand side, you'll see a weighted tuning fork. It's got these little weights at the top. So they mainly have a vibration. We place them on the body, and they have more of a vibration than a sound or a tone. And on the left-hand side, you'll see a picture of the unweighted tuning fork. You can use those beside the ears, and you can use it in the biofield or in the aura. So I've got a fork here, which I can show you as well. You'll see in the picture as well that we have the stem at the bottom, and then we have the handle. We have the tines, or what you'd call the prongs, and at the bottom is the tip. And the tip is what we actually apply to the body. So those weighted forks we use on the body. We can use them on painful joints or muscles. We can use them directly on those chakras or those energy centers to activate them, to balance them. And the weighted forks also calm the autonomic nervous system down as well, which reduces stress. Then the unweighted forks we use very much in the biofield and also besides the ears. So this is just a demonstration of me. This was my husband. He was my model or my guinea pig that day, showing that we can use it along the spine. We can use it on joints, painful joints, muscles. And it also promotes blood and lymph drainage. So one of my tools that I use is the 174 Hertz unweighted fork. And this slide shows you the human biofield, which is a toroidal shape. It's kind of a donut. It's flattened at the top. It's hollow in the center. And it extends out to the sides about 1.5 meters from either arm. And it extends about 1 meter above the head as well. So you can see at the center of our biofield is our heart center. So as James will know from his heart math talks that he's given that the electrical field of the heart is 60 times greater than the brain, and the magnetic field of the heart is 5,000 times stronger than the brain. So would you rather be operating from your heart or from your brain? So this is quite an aha moment. So at the edge of the biofield, it's like a discrete little capsule. And where the edge of the field is we measure that as our birth. And then as we move in about halfway through that aura or the biofield, we come to about, if we're talking about, say, a 40-year-old person, about halfway would be 20 years in their life. And right at the surface of the skin is current. That's what's happening now. And what happens is that when we experience tremendous stress or trauma, we get little tangles or knots of energy that are appearing in that biofield, unless we actually process it immediately. And trauma can be processed immediately, but it can also get stuck there. So, as I was saying, we can suppress it by using maybe drugs or maybe just even distraction, or we can start to treat it. And one of the ways that we treat it is with the tuning fork, the 174 hertz tuning fork. And I use it to scan the field at various points. So I would start at the feet, then I would move up to the knees, the hips, the trunk of the body, the shoulders, and the head, listening all as I'm scanning that field, listening for any imbalances. So the pitch of the tuning fork might go up, it might go down, it might get screechy or scratchy, it might go flat. So that's an indication to me that there's a little knot or tangle of energy. And what I would do at that point is I literally start teasing or combing that out. And what we do then is we sweep it towards the center of the body and up towards source to release it and let it go. So that's, in a nutshell, how I would work with a person to help them to release stuck energy, one of the ways. So I use the harmonic spectrum. This is one of my main healing tools. And for those who studied music or studied the piano, we know that we've got the middle C, and then we have all the notes D, E, F, G, A, B, and back up to the upper C. And I work with the concept of resonance and dissonance. So if two people meet each other and they immediately feel a connection, they feel there's a smoothness, there's a flow between them, then we would talk about resonance. And I'm sure that all of us have experienced that feeling of resonance when we meet someone. Or even if there's a pleasant smell or there's a beautiful sight, it evokes a resonance in us. And one of the most beautiful resonances that we can have is the C and the G together. I've got two tuning forks here, the C and the G. So this is a very, very resonant interval, and it puts the whole autonomic nervous system back into alignment again. So, but we also work with dissonance. So again, dissonance creates a feeling of unease, dis-ease. It's kind of grittiness. It's kind of scratchy. It's not a very pleasant energy to hear, but it's very necessary. And I always use dissonance in a healing session because it stimulates creativity. It also dislodges and releases suppressed emotions. So very important to have that dissonance in somewhere, usually at the beginning of a session. So I'm going to also play you some dissonant notes so that you can just hear for yourself what it sounds like. So I'm playing the middle C, the B, E, and D. And you will probably hear, but when I play them. So I don't know, could you hear the dissonance there? Or did it sound like resonance? Is it picking up? I'm getting some shaking heads. Okay. So I hope you can just pick up the gist of that dissonance is very valuable, as valuable as the resonance is as well. So I also work with the earth tones with the Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 hertz. This is the earth frequency. And many people today are taking their shoes off, they're grounding themselves or they're earthing themselves. Now, earth frequency can be used for increased focus and concentration. It improves our quality of our sleep, improves our confidence, even improves our long-term memory, and it reduces stress and inflammation. So I have a set of forks that I use specifically beside the ears. You can also use them on the body, which is the Schumann resonance or the earth heartbeat. Then I have another set of forks that are called the brain tuning forks. And the range of these tuning forks is all the way from gamma heart frequency all the way down to delta. Now, gamma is when we are in flow. If you think of sports people, they are at peak performance. They are not even thinking. Their brainwaves are so fast. It's just pure synchronicity, pure flow. Things just happen. So that's the gamma brain range. Moving down into beta, which is at a frequency of 12 to 30 hertz. So here we are thinking, we are analyzing, we are problem solving, very necessary, of course, when we are in work mode, but we can't stay in that mode all the time. We can move into relaxation, which is our alpha brain state from 8 to 12 hertz. Moving down into a theta state, here we're starting to deep relaxation, dropping off into sleep, and moving into delta brainwave state from 0 to 4 hertz. Deep sleep, cellular rest, regeneration. So all of those are very necessary. So if we were suffering from ADHD or learning problems, then we would go for the beta and the gamma brainwaves, and we could introduce more of those through our tuning forks. If we need to relax more, if we're highly stressed or anxious, or we want to be more creative, then we're going to be using the alpha and the theta brainwave states. So here was another indication of the tuning forks. We can use them for autism. We can use them for, as I mentioned, ADHD or PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and for a whole range of emotional and mental imbalances. Even in the final stage of life, when a person is transitioning from this life into the next lifetime, at a spiritual level, we can bring in deep peace, acceptance, and surrender for that person who is beginning to let go and transitioning into the next world. I'm just going to give you a quick summary of the benefits of sound healing. I've outlined already that it reduces stress and trauma, which is stored in our body, and it thus treats the root cause of illness and disease. And then it's very good for reducing pain and inflammation, physical pain, emotional pain, and spiritual pain. And then it can be a transformational tool to optimize health and well-being. So here we think of relationship healing. It's not just a physical healing, but also at the deeper level of relationships. At a spiritual level of, for instance, developing patience or coming to a sense of forgiveness. Do we need to forgive ourselves? Or is there another person that we need to forgive? So we can also use sound and tuning forks for that purpose. And then my final slide is just to say this beautiful little quote that I found is that logic will get you from A to B and imagination will get you everywhere. So moving from our head back into our heart and into the realm of imagination and quantum physics. So sound healing is inexpensive, it's non-invasive, it's holistic, and it empowers the client or the patient. And we have to remember that personal responsibility is key. So we cannot hand our health and our healing over to anyone else. We need to adapt with lifestyle habits. Optimal health is a daily habit. It's not just a one-off treatment, whichever modality you choose, it's a discipline and it's a daily habit. And those are my contact details. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I also have a healing website called Body, Mind, and Psyche. So,
Wonderful.
Thank you very much for your attention. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them now.
Anneke, just to say, for a fascinating presentation, I wouldn't have missed it for anything.
Okay, thank you.
It was brilliant.
Okay, thank you for that feedback.
Thank you, Andrea. Yes, I saw this presentation about 2 months ago, and I just thought I just had to share it with our audience because it is fascinating. And I just have a question for you, Anneke. So let's create a situation where we're into a retreat and we want to prepare people for meditation, or we want to prepare people for a lecture. Can you sort of compile or compound, which is the kind of words that we would rather use, compound a prescription of sound to support the process?
So you're saying you're in a group setting now?
Yeah, so we request you to compound a prescription of different sounds to support a process that's going to take place. So you will come in and the audience will be there, or the participants will be there, and we'll do a 5-minute sound therapy session as a supportive modality of transformation lectures and stuff.
Yes. Okay, so the first place that I would start is with breath. So I would get everyone to place their hand on their heart and on their belly. I would ask them to close their eyes. I would ask them to ground themselves through their feet, to sit up with a straight spine, and to allow the universal energy to flow through them. And I would ask them to breathe. So this would bring them back into their bodies, to slow them down and to bring them into their bodies. Then I would use movement. So as you mentioned at the beginning, that I'm a yoga teacher too, I would use some simple movements. Now, nothing complicated at all, but just even touching, patting the body brings us into our bodies. And so many people are so much in their heads. So we want to bring them into their bodies through simple movements, through the breath and through movement. Then it's lovely to have a space. So even before the ceremony begins, we would want to clear that space, as clear the energy in that space. Maybe bring in a candle, to bring in some beautiful scents to create an atmosphere, to create a sense of safety. And then I would have people perhaps in a circle, so we're all connected, we are all one. So there's so many ways now. Then we use nature sounds. We can use nature sounds as a background for soothing. We can use music. I would certainly include voice as well. If not in the beginning, people are shy to use their voice, but I would encourage them to use their voices. You know, I listened to a talk or a lecture on sound healing, and she was saying that you can actually use your name. Your name is so magical. So just to think it in your mind, and then to whisper it, and then to speak it. Speak your name, Anneke, Anneke, Anneke. It has a vibration, and get people to experience that vibration. At the end of a session, I I would love to end it with people singing. You want to create a certain amount of coherence in your group first. So you need a lot of safety. So you want to have safety. I would bring laughter in as well, because when people laugh, they relax their solar plexus and they start to let go. So if we can bring laughing in as well, make it playful, make it fun. Then you could also, I've got a toolbox of tools that I can give for the participants as well. So give them a rattle, something simple to play. Give them a drum. Give them, a reed. You can bang two sticks together. We can all make music. It goes back to sitting around the fire. We all know how to make music. Let's do this together. Playing instruments, listening to sounds. It can be facilitated. There's actually so much that you can do with sound and participation and intent. What is our intent as an individual for healing? What is our intent for the group? Because group healing is magnified. It's not just me, myself. It's amplified to the group. So there's so many different indications. And then, each session would have a theme as well. So a theme could be creativity, enhancing our creativity. Our theme could be dealing with stress and tension. Our theme could be using our voice. So all those ideas. I don't know if I've answered your question, James, but
Yes, absolutely. Now, we will have a meeting sometime in the future, me and you and Shelley, and
yes.
put things together. But the thing is, the more senses you can incorporate in transformation,
Yes.
the more you give it strength and energy and
Yes.
power and
Yes.
the remembrance, So,
Yes.
Shelley, I don't know if you also want to just comment a little bit here on this topic.
I absolutely love what you've shared with us today, Anneke. It's been lovely. In my shamanic work, I've done a lot of this myself. So it's been warm to my heart to hear how you've presented it here.
Mm.
And I think that, medicine today is moving beyond the confines of a certain only way of doing things into the awareness of the vibration of all our cells and the fact that everything is moving energy inside of us. When we can help through allowing people to feel safe, to experience through awareness who they are. This is beginning to take your discipline that you're sharing here into the field of more comfort. You're so right about the voice. And when people say, oh, singing, oh, I can't do that, but you talk. So, it's that process of becoming comfortable with self. I truly respect that. And I think it was an African proverb that speaks about dance while you walk. So the fear of dance, the fear of singing starts with movement, just walking or any movement of the body. And then I loved your work with the saying the name. I thought that was particularly beautiful. The interesting thing about an individual with their name, often people, for some wisdom in their life, choose to change their name. The name really comes from the soul. So I loved when that beautiful process of whispering the name that you shared here, because it's that soft connection with soul and the truth, the authentic truth of self, which is profound, that sound can liberate us into. And it becomes, no more are we trying to justify this is medicine. It becomes a living demonstration that it is. And I loved your presentation, and I think that it's absolutely integral. If we look at the ancient Egyptians, and I'm not an Egyptian teacher, but it is a discipline around reference that I looked into around sound. In those days, they were healing chambers, and women would take individuals in, it would be a woman's medicine, apparently, and they would sing, and then they'd use instruments and that to
Mm.
connect with the vibration of anything that's dis-ease, the dissonance that you spoke to, and raising it into its natural vibratory state. I wondered, Anneke, my question here to you today is there, in your experience, you're working in your private practice, am I correct?
Yes.
Has there been any inquiry to go into medical places?
You know, that's a
In the
good
world,
question.
in the world, maybe. Let's put it out that way and then take it down to South Africa. But what's your reference on that? Is there anything that you know about that?
You know, I would say that this is a supportive modality and that we also need to be working as a team. So it's not so much that we are working by ourselves, and because people are going to, so there are, I would ask a client to fill in an application form or a client details form before they even come. I would ask them what medication they are taking and any medical conditions, so that I've got an idea that there are, if someone comes in with cancer, and as part of my case studies, I did treat 1 or 2 people with cancer, but they are being seen by a doctor. They're being seen by an oncologist, and this is not to undermine at all any medical treatment. So we work together. We don't diagnose. We don't try. We actually would ask permission. We say, please, you know, speak to your oncologist, your doctor. Tell them you are seeing a sound healing therapist. Are they okay with this? And we'd like to work as teams. Now, there's still, as James will know as well, there's still a big divide between the pharmacists and the doctors. There seems to be a kind of a competition or whatever it is, but we need to be collaborating and talking more and more and referring to other people. So it's all supportive and we all work together.
Very beautiful. Almost like the same approach I surmise as helping a person to use their voice, and is to help the medical institutions and organizations to learn to trust other disciplines as well. Beautiful, very beautiful. I envisage a world where modalities come together. It's always been my philosophy. So beautiful, wonderful. Thank you.
Anneke, you know what would be lovely is if you can have like a healing room at the hospital, and it will come, where if you go for any kind of operation or procedure, and then there are certain times during the day when you can go to the healing room, and all the patients can just sit there, and you can use all your different kinds of instruments, you know, just to calm them and to boost their immune system and enhance the whole healing process. So your patients, when they leave the hospital, I promise you they will be much stronger. If you have to run 2 groups with a placebo, the group that gets the treatment will be in better shape when they leave the hospital.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any more questions?
Nice vision to hold there, James.
Yes.
Any more questions for Anneke? It seems to me there are no more questions. Anneke, thank you for your time, and thank you for our audience tonight. I mean, I just love this topic of sound healing. And, you know, we learn so many new things every year and every day. So it is just wonderful to be alive and experience all the knowledge that has become available to us. So this talk will be on YouTube by next week, and I will share it on the Intuitive Mind WhatsApp group. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and like it. And our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, the 24th of October at 7:30 with Sue Visser, Food as Medicine for All Gut Types. And she is well-read, well-researched. It's going to be an incredible session. And I just want to thank you for your attendance and your participation. And I just say goodbye and have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anneke. Many blessings. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, James.